Hello, everybody. It's Jeremy Gloff, and it is my pleasure tonight to conclude uh, this video series highlighting my reissue campaign of my music for the last 3 years. This is the third and final part, and I'll be discussing what I consider phase three of my creative journey from 2015 to 2025, the present. In part one, we discussed all of my early releases from Western New York from 1993 to 1998. In part two, we discussed the run of albums from 2000 to 2015. And tonight, we're going to talk about the most recent last 10 years of my life. So in 2015, I was actually a member of a band. We had started recording an album, but schedules were conflicting, and we just weren't able to finish the album, unfortunately. It was a lot of fun, but I kind of didn't know what I was going to do next. Uh, I had a bunch of songs kind of half written. Some songs were used for the band, some ideas, but I just felt really more lost than I'd ever felt before. I'd released the Hurricane Lullabies compilation, uh, and that was the first step of kind of getting back on track. At that time, I was working at Cappy's Pizza, and there was a cook there named V who taught me how to use Logic Pro and taught me how to record at home. So I was starting to kind of dip my toes into that. Uh, it was cool because it kind of brought me back to right where I started recording at home. And there's that immediacy and more control over your output. So I was just kind of floundering. And then one day I found out that an old friend of mine, Will Friendland, had passed away on the streets. And I was just, the first day I'm the kind of person that it takes me a couple days to really feel the impact of things. I'm so used to trauma in my life that I'm like, everything's fine, everything's great. But um, by the time the week ended, I was just devastated, and I actually drove to Atlanta to Will's funeral. But when I got back to Tampa, all all the songs that I had started working on just all came together, and I started recording these songs on Logic, and one thing led to another, and that album became 2016's Those Who Survived. So I really, that was a big comeback for me. When I Was 19 was the lead single. It was just great. It was such a bittersweet and painful time because, not only was I processing the death of my friend, but I feel like I was also processing all these unresolved feelings from that 1997, 1998 time in my life. And, writing this album in tribute to Will really helped with that. Uh, and then I wrote a couple. I finished the chunk of songs I had started and then added a couple more. So Those Who Survived was an interesting album. I was just learning how to use Logic. There were 5 producers on the album, so a bunch of people produced the songs. I think it's the only time in all of my music that someone else produced a whole album of mine. But the deluxe edition is actually a 3-disc deluxe edition, and the first disc is the album, but the second disc is the original Jeremy Gloff mix of the album. Because to me, I considered the album done, and I had a mix done, and I was actually playing it for people and getting it ready towards release before the producers got involved. So for the first time ever, if you listen to disc two on the deluxe edition, that's my original director's cut of the album. And then disc three has a bunch of the demos. There's some of the acoustic demos of the songs, uh, some of the different producers' versions that are really great, but I went with different versions on the album. So this deluxe edition was really fun to put together because I got to. There was such a journey for this album. I really got to collect things together. Um, Christmas Song was originally written with Ken Spivey, who has passed away, a singer songwriter who has left us. And I think that his fan base is going to be really excited to hear the original demo of that song with me and Ken doing a duet. So that was something really special to One Earth. And of course, the whole collection ends with the Pink It Up remix of Can I Have Now, the Pink It Up mix, which was created just for the Pink It Up breast cancer benefit event. So those who survived, 3 discs. Uh, there's a couple phone demos on there. It was a really, really special time for me as a musician. It was a huge release show. It was a huge comeback. And I think the deluxe edition has really done it justice. All right, the next thing I did was the When I Was 19 remixes. It was a remix EP that was released on my birthday. 2017. And it's my second remix EP. The first was the Dancing in Your Blue remixes from 2013, which was kind of the first time I dug into my archive. But for the when I was 19 remix EP, uh, with all the reissues, I was able to expand it to the 10-track version I originally intended to release, including the three Madonna covers from the Thanksgiving event, uh, and the Burning Up Madonna WMNF tribute. So there's the one version, the one remix of Can I Have Now from K Paul. There's all the different remixes of When I Was 19, and then the three Madonna covers are all on this EP. So make sure you check that out. I'm so glad that these Madonna covers had an opportunity to get released and finally get collected on this EP where they were meant to be in the first place. All right, the next thing, in the summer of 2017, the next album was Lightrail. So this was released on the first day of summer in 2017. I did a Beyonce. It was a surprise release. Nobody knew I was working on an album, and I just kind of released it. And I must say, in retrospect, it didn't blow the world up. I thought, Those Who Survived was so successful that I thought, oh, this album's gonna land with a bang, but it didn't. People didn't know what the hell it was. They're like, what is this? But I ended up shooting 7 music videos for Light Rail. There was a documentary, uh, Moments of Euphoria, talking about the album. And for the deluxe edition reissue, there's 2 bonus tracks. One of them is the What Can You Do Pink It Up mix, which was used in the Pink It Up event. And then the other one is a cover of Prince's Take Me With You. I was commissioned by artist Vincent Krall, who has passed away. Rest in peace, Vince. Uh, to record a cover for a relationship he was in at the time. And it was his wedding present. So when Vince passed away, I totally had forgotten about that cover. And the bones of that song were actually used for a different light rail track. So it really, was kind of the first thing breaking ground for this album. So it was really cool to get it on the deluxe edition as a bonus track. Okay. So then after Light Rail came out, a lot of things changed in the world. Donald Trump went into office. Uh, Within a 3-month period, my cat Biscuit had passed away, my grandma Gloff, my stepdad, and my dad. My stepdad and my dad died both of cancer within 10 days of each other. Uh, and after that, it was a hard year because I'd gotten to some legal challenges with my family. And I'm the kind of person, I'm like, everything's great, but I internalize stress. So I ended up with Bell's palsy. Half of my face was frozen. But one of the things that happened is I did inherit some of my dad's electric guitars. So I actually drove from Fredonia, New York down to Tampa with a car full of items from my dad and my stepdad. Originally, I was supposed to fly back, but there was a hurricane just a couple weeks before, and they were desperate to get rental cars back in Florida. So you could rent a car from New York to Florida for $3 a day. So I canceled my plane ticket and drove back. I call it the Trail of No Tears because I was so numb, I didn't cry at all. But I came back to Tampa and I started writing the album that became The Box, which came out in 2019. Those were songs one day I just took my dad's guitars out of the case, started playing the guitar, and those became these songs. So, um, this was another, every album from this phase were kind of big albums for me. I've been fortunate. This one kind of took me back to the singer-songwriter. Um, and the deluxe edition has the acoustic version of the song Tampa, and then 2 alternate mixes of the songs Atlanta and Low Voltage. So those were just some alternate mixes I had done. At the time, I wasn't sure where I was going to release them, but the box and the following album were actually the first deluxe editions that I ever did, starting this whole campaign. All right, after that, I did a collaboration with poet Geoffrey Dicker, an EP called Things I Know For Sure. And that had only been available on Bandcamp, but part of this reissue campaign is I got that up on all streaming platforms to make sure the discography is complete. So Geoffrey had some poems, I put some music to them. It was just a creative collaboration. All right, so then COVID hit and we were all stuck at home. Uh, the world was rioting. There was a lot of conversation about social injustice, politics. And I just remember I live in Tampa, Florida. I was sitting in this recording studio and the buildings were literally burning down the street. Like my neighborhood was on fire. And a musician had come over that was a kind of a trap dubstep musician, and he had me kind of demo up a song for him. And it just turned a light on. Because after the box, I'm like, I might be out of ideas. But when that musician came over, it turned a light on. And I don't want to say like, oh, I can make a rap album because I don't even listen to hip hop. I must be honest. I'm not really a rap isn't my thing. But being able to do music in a spoken word way instead of singing the lyrics, talking them, and writing poetry in a different format really it just ripped new ground open. So during COVID, Burn It Up, Turn It Up was the album I made. At the time, I was managing a nonprofit that fed the unhoused in the highest hunger gap of Tampa. So it was a really gritty time in my job, in my life, in the world. This it was interesting. These police cars at the gas station that was right across from my job. It was just a moment that happened. Dave Decker took this picture. But artistically, there's a lot of new sounds on this album for me. There were some hip hop beats, some trap beats, some dubstep, and the album is so honest. And I feel like I just ripped myself open and really dealt with a lot of crap on this album. And the other notable thing is there's 30 collaborators because it was COVID and I was reaching out to people from all different times of my career and my life. And Fearman's on this album who collaborated with me on my third album. My brother's on here. Different people from different times of my life all were on this album. So I feel like I just let out so much with these songs. So the deluxe edition of this one, there's actually a disc one and a disc two because there were kind of different versions of this album released. There was the original version, then there was the bonus track version in 2022. But the ultimate reissue is out now that collects all the versions of all the songs. So disc one is the original album as it was released in 2021. Disc two has all the different versions of the remixes. Uh, there were a couple podcast themes that I was commissioned to write. One was for the Buffalo podcast from Buffalo. Feeding Tampa Bay used a remix of my song Feed the World Together as their podcast theme. So that version's on here. There's an unreleased track called Let the Games Begin that was done with Dave Decker. I kind of mined that song for different parts on the final album. But when Trump got re-elected into office, as I was working on this reissue last year, and maybe earlier this year, I'm like, this original Let the Games Begin track has got to come out. Um, there's the collaboration with Mike Media, New Thing, which was the basis of what became the song Bay, of course. And then the songs that were on the original bonus tracks, Technicolor and What Friends Do. So, yeah, I'm really proud of the Burn It Up, Turn It Up Deluxe because everything, we're just stuck at home, like I said. So everything is all collected on that. All right. So after Burn It Up, Turn It Up, once again, I'm like, I think I'm out of ideas. I think I'm done. And then when I was on PTO and I went to a town called Bartow with my friend Shay, which is about an hour from Tampa. And that night in Bartow, the way the sun was hitting the trees, we were listening to Emmylou Harris, Blue Kentucky Girl. And it just reminded me so much of my hometown, the beautiful magic of my hometown without the trauma of growing up there. I told Shay, I'm like, I'd been to Bartow in 2001. I wrote an album called America's Lonely Tonight. That's my Bartow album. She said, that's not your Bartow album. You haven't written that album yet. So I went home. I got Bell's palsy again. So the other side of my face froze. And I started writing the album that became Road to Bartow. So that was this album from 2023. This is really a return to cerebral thinking man's internal, late at night music. Uh, I really felt like I was going back to like my 17-year-old self, just writing songs from the heart, talking about my feelings, talking about my life and putting it into songs, recording at home. Just a lot of sincerity. I think we went to Bartow like 20 times within this year. I actually had a birthday party there. I rented out a wine bar and 30 people drove up from Tampa over to Bartow for that wine bar. And it was just the most magical birthday I ever had. And this album Look at that back cover. I mean, in my heart and soul, there's nothing I'd like more than to fall in love, move into a small town, and kind of have my own version of Schitt's Creek, where we have our little apothecary, and just disappear from the world. So, Road to Bartow was just really reconnecting with that small town, wholesome goodness, but in a liberal, non-traumatic way, which was different from how I grew up. So, this album, Road to Bartow, very, 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 very special to me. The reissue, the the only bonus track is the Estero Boulevard video mix. When it came time to do the video for Estero Boulevard, uh, I was I'm like, I need to Lana Del Rey this song. I was thinking of her song Venice Bitch that just had a long synthesizer solo and just kind of meandered. So I did a longer remix of Estero Boulevard for the video, and that is a bonus track on the reissue of Road to Bartow. Well, 2025 was my 50th birthday on January 8th, but 2024 was a year of so much change for me. I saw Madonna in concert. I went back to work the next day and I thought, I don't think I'm being treated fairly at this job. I'm going to see how things play out, but if I don't start feeling satisfied with how I'm treated, I'm going to go. So, things did play out and I wasn't happy with some decisions being made. I didn't feel like my talents were being honored, so I left. It was really painful because in my heart, I thought I was going to retire at this place. But in one moment, everything changed about my life. So I took 6 months off. I called it my hot girl summer. I gave plasma. I just interviewed for a lot of jobs. It was a time of opportunity. As an adult who had now had nonprofit managerial experience, I had never interviewed and looked for a job. So it was fun for me. I got to see my talents and have all these different options in front of me. And I had the privilege of being able to pick which one I wanted to do. And, for the thrill, there was just as much pain underneath because, like, I hustled hard. I was doing like 6 side gigs. I kept my finances up, but, there was always that hustle. Like, where's the next chunk of money going to come from? As I went through all this, though, I recorded 6 new songs in preparation for my 50th birthday. I wanted to do a compilation 50 AF, the Best of Jeremy Gloff Volume 2, which collected the hits from all these albums, from Those Who Survived, Lightrail, The Box, Burn It Up, Turn It Up, and Road to Bartow. This is just 10 years of work, and I thought this compilation would be a nice little bow on top of that. So I recorded 6 new songs to go with the 14 hits, and recording those songs really was a lifeline for me during this time of so much turmoil and change. It really kept me grounded. It wasn't fun. I remember just like I dreaded working on the music, as therapeutic as it was, because these weren't fun songs, and the disappointment wasn't fun, and there was a little bit of betrayal, and that wasn't fun. So, you know, this really, the 50 AF, the 6 new songs, really dealt with a lot of pain, a lot of change, and it really was a lifeline. So the event for this in January, 14 local musicians all came and did the 14 hits from the song. So 14 people covered the 14 uh, collected songs. And then I did live versions of the 6 new songs. So, after 50 AF, I felt like this was the bow on top of the present. I am going to take a break. Then my friend, Shay Krispinski Shower Beers, sent me a music track. And in the process of really doing all these deluxe editions, I found a CDR with 4 instrumentals that I'd submitted to other artists that didn't get used. And then I found 2 more instrumentals from the Burn It Up, Turn It Up kind of 2020, 2021, 2022 era. And then Shower Beer started sending me tracks, and everything happened so fast. So the summer of this last year, I was going to take off, but instead I have a new album out called SB times JG. It's a 14-song collaboration album with the band Shower Beers. And this is the future. This is what I'm going to be working on promoting the next few months. I'm thrilled to finally finish the reissue campaign. to get all that stuff out there. All the demos are out, all the unearthed tracks, the alternate versions. So, out with the old and in with the new. All right. Well, this concludes part 3 of Jeremy Gloff, the Reissue campaign. We've covered everything. I hope you enjoy hearing all these different versions. And thanks to all the listeners, Riotboy Records, and everybody for their interest in my music. And now I'm so excited I can, now that the old has been honored and all the albums are in the right release date and in the right chronological order with all the right songs and the right versions, I can really invest in this new album, which has gotten so much buzz and so much traction, and I'm ready to put my heart into this. So, everybody, thank you so much. Let's see what comes next. All right. Love you all. Thank you.